Then there's the Madea.
Rollers and Lollers.
Ooh, sometimes you just gotta do crazy stuff. Get a fly! Should've got a video.
How much fun are you having with bringing Madea back and kind of putting her into all of these different worlds, The Crown, Bridgerton, getting a chance to embrace the Netflix universe?
It's been really fantastic because, on film, I've always been limited to a few screens that I could have at a time. But to have it on Netflix and everybody can turn it on their living room all around the world, that is really fascinating to me, and I cannot wait. So I wanted to make sure that I was doing all these crazy promotions to get people to think about it in different ways.
Listen, we got to be out here promoting because you're turning around Madea J. Blige in less than 24 hours.
That's right. And I'm waiting for the next thing that I could jump on and Madea could show up on, so we're trying to find it.
Well, then let me pitch one to you. Spider Madea.
Writing it down.
What does Madea as the queen look like? What is the plot of The Frown?
Oh, no, I'm not going there. Oh, my gosh. That's good. Let me think about that one. But I might need to shoot a 30-minute episode of The Frown. We'll see.
Listen, we are going to just be asking for more and more Madea after this, so keep that one in mind.
We'll do.
You mentioned, of course, the global international audience here. You are bringing in Agnes Brown, Madea and Mrs. Brown meeting. What was it that made you want her to be a part of this particular story?
I was shooting a movie called Brain on Fire, and the director told me, but have you heard of this Irish guy? He plays Mrs. Brown, and he showed me clips. I go, whoa, this is really great. And I call him up, and we have a great conversation. We realize our birthdays are 2 days apart. And while I was in America building on stage and building the career, he was in Europe doing the same thing, building his. So the parallels were amazing. They were uncanny. And we had a chance to sit down and talk, and we just hit it off. So 5 years later, we found the right project, and we came together on it.
Well, yes, you said 5 years later because you had retired Madea.
Yeah.
Tell me about how you developed the script, deciding to do, take on Medea's farewell play and things along those lines.
Yeah, I just felt like there was more to say in the play, and if it were a movie, how would I tell the story, and how much more would I elaborate on the characters and make them a little richer? So that's where it all stemmed from, having a moment where people could come along and just be more in this Madea world and have more life and more fun. So that's where it all started.
So then you call Brendan and say, hey, let's bring in Mrs. Brown and her Wakanda Forever ring.
Yes, how would you feel about coming to be a part of this? And he was like, I'm there.
I've been around the block before.
You was a doorknob?
On a bike with no saddle.
Get up! Ooh, that ain't a spring chicken, that's an old crow.
What was it like the first time the two ladies met? Were y'all trading wig and girdle tips?
No, because, we're both men sitting there talking like dudes, having conversations. Somebody say action, you hear, hello, Mrs. Brown. That the thing happens, right? But sitting there across from him, I'm telling you, Brendan is a comedic genius, and he reminds me so much. I remember sitting at the Oscars with Robin Williams, and Robin just kept going. I mean, just joke after joke after joke. And that's Brendan. He does joke after joke after joke after joke, and you have to choose which one you're going to use because there's so many great ones.
To that end, getting back into the Madea garb, Madea and Joe, what do you remember about the evolution of this costume from when you first put it on 20 years ago? How has she upgraded with that Netflix bank?
I think over the years, it's just coming from the stage and what we were trying to figure out from the first show to what I've learned now, how to not be so hot in it, what is comfortable, how do we make it work, how do we figure it all out. Those moments were really ones that spoke to the evolution of who she is. From the hair to the makeup to the dresses, not a lot of change there, but the character itself has totally evolved.
And it's true that you kind of don't need to have the look on to just dip right back into Madea.
No, she'll come up just in a minute. Don't even matter. She'll just pop up right on up out of there.
Well, to that, obviously you can improv as Madea all day. What do you think is the greatest Madea line that you ever wrote? When you look back, you're like, man, that one was pretty good.
I don't know if it's a line or if it's much of a segment in the show where I was talking about trees, branches, leaves, and roots, and friendships, and letting things go.
I put everybody that come in my life in the category of a tree. Some people are like leaves on a tree. The wind blow, they over here. They unstable. The blow the other way, they over here.
It makes its way around the internet all the time. So I think that was really, really powerful.
Well, let's talk about that future of Madea. She's back with all of the regular suspects, Mr. Brown, Joe. What was it about kind of getting everybody back together and being on this set? And what will kind of stand out for you about what makes this project special?
Well, it really was a homecoming because when I look at Bam, Cassie Davis and David and Tamla Mann, I mean, it's been 20 years that we've been doing these shows. So to have us all come back together in the Madea house, the house I'm sitting in right now, and bring a lot of this stuff back to life, realizing the amount of laughter it's going to bring to people, that made us all feel good because we sure laughed our heads off filming it.
Well, you mentioned to me the other day that, maybe we're going to take Joe to Vegas. What would that be like?
I think it'll be like The Hangover meets Bridesmaids, just all out of control. And I would ask all of my church folks not to watch it because Joe is going to go 100% wild. Joe goes wild.
Listen, if Joe can go to Vegas, I feel like Madea could head over to Ireland. Jump
Ireland. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
There will be more Madea, of course, with Mabel. Going to Showtime, you're gonna bring it back a little bit of a prequel. What can you tease about what is to come with more of the Simmons story?
Well, I think the flashback of her in the 70s would be very much a Foxy Brown kind of story with some actress playing the role and her young daughter, Cora, and her trying to make her way through this world or who she becomes. I think there's a great story there.
There is a flashback, of course, in this movie.
It was December 1st, 1955. I was young and sexy. I was 20 years old.
That whole thing is just funny to me. With an iPhone, I don't even understand that. But it was all in fun, just all in fun.
You mentioned this before, being on Netflix, you were really getting a chance to embrace the streamer and being in everybody's house. Was there anything that you could do for a streamer that you couldn't do with a theatrical version of the movie? Something you'd been kind of itching to try or bring into the Madea world that you were able to do this time?
Not necessarily in the movie, but I think the biggest thing is I was always told that black movies or movies with black stars don't travel internationally. Well, A Fall from Grace on Netflix proved that completely wrong because it was successful in so many other countries. So to have Madea be the first time that people in other countries get to see her at the same time as we do in America, that for me is going to be really awesome.
And of course, it's not the end of your Netflix journey. Next up is A Jazzman's Blues.
Yeah.
And we're all kind of itching to get a chance to see some of that. Your passion project was your very first screenplay, right?
Yeah. Very first screenplay I ever wrote back in '95. It feels like giving birth to a 26-year-old baby, and just waiting for everybody to see this is what it was 26 years ago, and here it is. What do you think? That for me is going to be an incredible moment just to let it go into the world because I've held on to it for so long and kept it safe and protected for so long.
When you think about how you've evolved over those 26 years and, you kind of look back at that script and think about, who you were, Tyler, the dreamer back then, what do you remember about that young person?
The feeling I had that things were going to happen was right. That feeling was right. That voice inside of me, that longing, that pulling, that I know to be the voice of God, that was completely right. So that for me, that the confirmation of that feels amazing.